so that we can have the discussion started.
Sorry, could you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Tell us something about the topic you've chosen so that we can have the whole discussion getting started.
Okay, exactly. The topic, I'm not sure about that.
The topic from your essay, Avishi. The essay that you wrote, you chose the topic.
Okay, sorry. I chose the first topic that was about water and how we can minimize water wastage. I personally feel like water is a resource that we all need to conserve, but it's day by day getting depleted because people just misuse them. They think that it's endless and every day billions of tons of water gets wasted.
Okay, so we know that there are a lot of SDGs out there. What was that about water that, or you wanted to talk about water? What was that was so close to you? Is there anything that you've seen or you've read about or anything like that? What was about this topic that you had to choose this only?
I find it personally more convincing because the water is needed for everyone to survive. It's not that it's particularly for the planet. The planet needs water to survive, and so do we humans. And if we continuously waste it, it's like we'll soon end up in a situation just like we had to discuss the one earlier. So I personally feel a special connect with this topic because it's something that we need to prioritize more on and work on so that we don't have to face a problem in the future.
I would go on with my questions later. If anyone else has their questions, they can go on first.
So hi, Avishni. Welcome to this interview and forum. My name is Rosemary. So on my sheet, I have you down for sustainable development. I'm hoping that's correct, because my questions are going to be based on sustainable development as a whole, rather than specifically on water, right?
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So first of all, do you want to just give us a brief description or definition on what comes to your mind when you speak of sustainable development? How does that apply to your interests? And what conjures up in your mind and heart when you think of sustainable development? What does it mean to you? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
If I think about sustainable development, the first thing that comes to my mind is kind of a utopian society where if we did not have sustainable development and everything was perfect. I feel that sustainable development is something that we all should adopt as an individual so that that utopian society which comes to my mind can actually become true. It will be a world without any problems. Everyone will be happy. No one will face even a single problem. There won't be poverty, water will be clean, animals will be able to live happily, and there won't be any as such problem because if we talk about the 17th goal, working in partnership, then there won't be any as such a differentiation among the poor and the rich, or the governments will be there together and we'll be able to develop further. Or this acts as an obstruction to our development as well because we are more involved in the problems that we face and we're not able to exactly look out towards the future and more of development.
That's very beautifully stated. So I have a couple of follow-up questions. Do you think it's a highly it's an extremely beautiful, poetic, but also a really idealistic view of the world, right? This utopia that you speak of. I dream of it every day myself. And then I wake up. So I want to ask you, do you, first of all, and without being cynical, do you think this utopia is achievable? But more importantly, is in your mind, is the journey to get to this utopia more of what we need to focus on than the goal? And what are the things that hinder or hamper sustainable development? But and is you imply that this utopia is achievable. I'm not sure I'm right in understanding that that was your intention. But do we, as humans, as responsible citizens of the earth, specific things that we need to focus on? And then a more challenging thing to think about is continued development possible with a limited set of resources in a limited biosphere? That's a lot to throw on you. But you can just, stream of consciousness answer that. You don't have to follow it in a sequential form.
Sure. Like, first of all, of course, this utopian society, it's really difficult to accomplish. And maybe we won't actually reach there. But it's the journey that's the most important. Even if we work towards going to that utopian society, we'll achieve a lot. The problems will reduce significantly, even if we are not able to eliminate all of them. Like, if we say the journey is more important, we should look at those small steps. Like, first we can try to reduce the world hunger slowly, so that at the end no one is hungry at all. And if we work in small steps, we'll actually be able to achieve that. But of course, it's not altogether possible at the end.
That's wonderful. I think I'll pass it on to someone else for now and come back with more questions later, if there's time.
All right. Hi, Avishi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So everything sounds like everyone else has been saying. It's a beautiful notions and things like this. So tell us, what is your idea? What's the solution that you've come up with?
For a solution for the particular problem or for all of it? Actually, your voice is coming a bit low. If you could speak up.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
It's still a bit low and I cannot hear you so clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay. Could you please share with us your idea or solution for the challenge that you've identified?
For water, I personally believe one of my favorite solutions, I've mentioned it before in our other debates as well. I believe like we are facing a double problem. Our freshwater supplies are decreasing significantly. And on the other hand, global warming has been increasing the water levels in the ocean. I felt that if we could come up with a solution to actually replace the water levels in both the areas. So we could use the water in the seas, access water, and we can provide it as fresh water. So it will increase freshwater reserves as well as significantly decrease what is there in the ocean and remove the access of it. Taking in consideration, enough should be left for the animals who live in the oceans. So this could solve both of these problems, and I personally feel it's possible because we can remove salt out of water, we can remove all the other waste materials that have been accumulating in the oceans, and at the same time take care of the animals because the water levels have been increasing as is the temperature. This could solve several problems together. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Water
We'll take a
supply.
shot at it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Nelfa. Fine. You go.
So what, on a very personal, macro, nano level, what is the solution that you would propose? Because obviously, as you were talking about, we can remove salt out of water, we can do all of that. That's something I think people out there are working towards because everyone understands there's an issue. What is something that you, on a personal level, think is a very easy, quick, simple solution that can be applied instantly and you think would bring a change?
The simplest solution could be changing our own habits. Like we use approximately 100 liters of water a day. And if we start saving those small drops of water as well, and everyone does that, then there'll be 8 billion water drops that will be saved. That could also make a really big change. It's upon us. Like if we are brushing our teeth, it's a basic thing that everyone says, but not everyone applies to their own life. It's just for the matter of saying it to others and showing that they actually actually care about it. But on a personal level, I've seen several people who have given speeches about this thing, but they haven't actually applied it to their own lives. So if we change our own habits, the way we think, it will surely make a big difference.
So, Avishni, are you familiar with Dr. Martin Luther King?
I haven't heard of, I've heard of the name, but I don't know exactly.
Okay, so he was a civil rights activist, and one of the in the United States, and he brought about the what's called the Civil Rights Act in the United States and the Voting Rights Act, which looked at the descendants of Black African slaves and empowered them and gave them agency. So one of the significant issues that we face when we bring global communities together is to inspire people to connect in what Dr. King called the beloved community. So I love your idea of billions of drops of water, but these billions of drops of water are like the billions of human beings on the world, right? Each unique, each with a unique history, each coming with a cultural background that's either difficult or conducive to the solutions that we are trying to think of. So how do you think we can create this what is called this beloved community, or community of people who will come together to support you in these efforts that you are placing on the table? How do we go about doing that? Because it is a critical part of coming up with change or being a change maker.
It's similar to what I said earlier, like it's the mindset of the people again. There are several people around me who actually feel that they can make a move, but they don't exactly have a platform so that they could help those and form that community. If we could create a platform so that everyone could come together, like we have these groups which people join, but that exactly they cannot make such a big difference that we wish to make over here. So if we could have a big, like a step forward, we could make a big community sort of the people who wish to help bring this change, and more people will join substantially, and it will actually, it can help make a big difference and put up these community together, because there are several people who also think about this problem, but they actually don't take a step forward to make a difference.
So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and ask you, within your neighborhood, within your friends, what will this platform look like? What hopes do you have? And what kind of platform would you create to say, bring 5 of your neighbors or 5 of your friends together in order that the solutions that you articulate can be implemented in a more powerful way?
But could you repeat the last part? Your voice was cracking.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So what in your view, and in the context of your immediate surroundings, like your friends, your family, your relatives, your neighbors, what is this platform going to look like? You speak about a common platform to bring people together. What is that platform? What does it look like? How would you go about setting it up?
It could be a small, to begin with it, we could have a small platform where we collect all the people around me, like my friends and neighbors. We could start raising opinions, like in my neighborhood, not for this particular problem, but there are people who have come together to plant more trees in my surroundings. So on the road just beside, in front of me, the society, people from a group, they have started planting more trees. They have begun to be recognized by newspapers. So similarly, we could start up a community for this particular problem, so that there's no gender discrimination as such, and as slowly people will join up, just like the group for the other problems. This could also come up and
I think we've already gone over time also.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I think, can we ask Avishi to leave the room then, if the 3 judges are fine with that?
thank you for your time. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Abhishek. Ma'am, before we call in the next judges, we would like you guys to enter the marks in the score sheet simultaneously, if that's possible, so that this announcement of the winners can be done immediately following this round. Oh, that's all right.
Also, I have one quick question if no participant is in the room.
No, he's not.
We are talking about SDGs, right? Like a particular, yeah. So I think that was a little confusion because we suddenly went on to discussing such a broad topic.
No, that's fine, ma'am. You can talk about anything related to sustainability or the sustainable development goals or your area of expertise. That is completely fine. We just gave the topic of the essay as a beginning for the interview that the participant has an idea.
Yeah.
So if you guys are, if you permit, I'll call in the next participant.
When you say, hang on, when you say enter it, I can do it on my personal sheet, right? And
yes,
then, okay, fine. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
1 second, sorry. I am seeing the sheet and I think it's like the judge name has been written. Should I copy it down for my thing, or what am I supposed to do in the like Google sheet?
Neha, could you instruct exactly what they should do?
There are 5 respective worksheets. If required, I'll send.
Okay, I have realized. I did not see the worksheet. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, Lisa, ma'am, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to ask a question. So are each of these finalists, are they aware that these are the criteria that we're going to be asking them questions on? Because that would be helpful if they know that these are the areas that we're really keen to understand what it is that they are trying to propose, so we can get a better feel, and I think in shorter amount of time, perhaps.
So the areas that you're talking about are that they will be judged more on their clarity of ideas and that they should be clear with. Is that what you are asking? Huh?
No, what I'm asking is that are the students aware of these categories, and that we are going to pose questions that specifically relate to those categories to flesh out their answers so that we can get an idea of the viability of the scoring here.
The participants are aware that the creativity, uniqueness, and their drive towards sustainability is what we mark more than their, say, language skills or their presentation. But in the spirit of making it clear to them, we will announce that to them in the common room before we send them here as well. Would that be all right?
I'm not sure if I'm clear. There are multiple categories, such as uniqueness of creativity, clarity of applicability, performance in the interview, et cetera, et cetera. So all I'm saying is that we've got limited time. And so with each of the interviewees coming in, for them to really understand that those are the questions we're going to be posing, specifically relating to those categories, so that they can actually answer the questions with those categories in mind so that it's more expeditious, perhaps, is all I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am, I completely understand.
I'm not speaking of one particular category.
No, ma'am, I completely understand that. So the weightage or the division provided for those categories was regarding that we just wanted more weightage to be given to, say, their understanding of topics or their ideas or their solution, rather than, say, if certain member was a better English speaker than the next, or the certain player, someone was better at presenting their ideas in a document or in their written English format. So the participants are aware that it is more about how creative or how unique these ideas are. So they are aware that these are the things that they need to present in the interview.
I don't think I'm still being heard.
No, ma'am, I completely understand that you're saying that they should know, that they should understand that these are the areas that you will be marking them more for. Is that your concern?
Yeah, that each of the categories has relevancy for this interview scoring.
Yes,
that's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They know that. They do know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So without trying to belabor this more,
yes, ma'am.
I want to underline that it's really important that the candidate knows the topic of the essay that they're going to be judged on. For example, Avishni thought she was going to be focusing on water, but what we have down here for her is sustainable development. And I also want to make it clear that questions, I don't want to limit my questions just to these categories, because by broadening it'll inform their creativity. And I just want to say that, and just let you know, ask you if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll just like to clarify this to the best of my abilities. I hope I can do that. So the interview and what kind of questions you want to ask them on are completely up to the judges. So if you believe that a topic requires more weightage, that is up to you. Even in the mail, when we send these sheets for you, the division of these marks was just a reference to indicate that the uniqueness and creativity of ideas was to be given more weightage than the language skills per se. And apart from that, if you believe that there are certain topics that you would like an answer to, you are feel free to ask the judges for the participants those questions. But the division that we provided was just to indicate that clear difference that this carried more weightage than the language skills, perhaps. I hope that is
got
clear.
it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll let the participants know that they should be ready with the topic of their essay in mind before they come here, so that that confusion does not occur again.
Okay.
Would the judges like to talk to each other for a bit before the participants come in?
Hello.
Nishant is on the here. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Hi, Nishant. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, yes.
So start with a bit of about yourself, what topic you've chosen, which SDG you're focusing on, and then we can start with the discussion.
I'm Nishant Miklani. I reside in Bangalore. Currently, I'm studying in 9th grade in Whitefield Global School. As for the essay, I wrote it on the biomedical waste topic, like the dealing with the insurgent generation of biomedical waste due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, I'll go since we don't want to waste precious seconds here. So biomedical waste is a very tough and very interesting topic that you picked, and congratulations on doing that. So which specific type of biomedical waste are you mostly focused on? And you must educate us and tell us where the bulk of biomedical waste is coming from.
Well, as for the biomedical waste, I didn't quite like focus on any particular type. In my essay, I focused on how can we I treated it as more of an administrative issue rather than an innovative one, because like all the technology or the infrastructure that we need to deal with any form of biomedical waste is already in place. It's just that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, like there's this increase in use in mask, or like even the vaccines, the increased production of plastic syringes or glass whales, etc. Like it's overburdening the system a bit. So I like briefed on it. Like first we need to collect data a lot, like accurate data with reference to India. For the year 2020, the Central Pollution Control Board, like it's responsible for dealing with the biomedical waste and all that, the data that it released contradicted itself a lot. Like it said that in Lakshadweep, it's treating like 75 tons of biomedical waste per day, but that's not possible since it does not have any treatment facility. So like with reference to India in particular, like there's a lot of like the Central Pollution Control Board is ineffective in producing accurate data, and without it's also the like for my research papers, I referred to paper from India particularly, but I also looked in the case in other countries, in African countries, and then some Central Asian countries. That's the case there too. They don't have accurate data. So the first thing we need is accurate data. Then, according to the data, if we see that the production of biomedical waste is more than what the system can deal with, like the treatment facilities, then there needs to be a generation of more treatment facilities. And I also went into a bit on what can be done on a micro level, like I just briefed, like there should be bins, and then like people should be educated as what to do. To home quarantine centers, proper segregation techniques need to be provided, because that's also an issue. Then as for the macro level, I also suggested some techniques such as tracking of the biomedical waste with barcodes, like the bag of biomedical waste that's produced from private hospitals and such. A barcode can be attached to help it track in real time. The state government of Kerala has used this technique, and it's been proven to be extremely effective. So, and I briefed about how the vaccination also is producing a lot of biomedical waste because of the plastic syringes and the glass vials. So that's basically the summary. I just basically summarize on how the system needs to be a bit oiled up, because all technology, we don't really need anything new. We just need to like polish the system a bit to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
So to be clear, you are focused more on the administrative data gathering and analysis aspect than how you actually deal with the waste. I want to make that clear, because I don't want to, segue into an area that you are not really focusing on. This is the administrative aspect that you want to challenge and address, right?
Yes, I treat it as an administrative issue. There's no need to solve a problem that's not there.
Okay, so, but I'm going to challenge you a little bit and ask you, what do you think is going to happen? So for example, there was a massive problem with all the masks, right? In most countries, they ended up in the ocean. So let's say, are you suggesting that masks can also be barcoded and tracked? And how do you encourage humans? Because in some way in this equation, there's always a human, right? Who has to adhere to the guidelines that an administrative policy imposes. How do you get a human to adhere to those policies and to follow the guidelines and regulations, so that no matter how wonderful the administrative aspect is, if I don't decide to toss my mask in the garbage or cut it up, that top aspect is then, futile. So I'd like to just hear your thoughts on that. And how do you get humans to engage in this extremely well done administrative, guidelines and policies and data gathering?
Is no matter how much ever you tell them, the people, there's always gonna be a significant portion of mass that will just be thrown on the roadside and such, right? And then the proper authorities, they clean the reason they clean it up and then collect it, but the reason that it ends up in the oceans, or it ends up polluting the environment, is because there's not proper segregation. I even briefed about that in the essay, that on the micro level, there needs to be at least superficial segregation. Like a lot of the masks, they can be recycled. So so some of those masks can go and get recycled, but those that need to be treated and then disposed of or incinerated, then they can be segregated. Of course, it's not going to be 100% perfect, but there are techniques that I briefed on my essay that help in the segregation of those that biomedical waste that needs to be treated. And I also mentioned that most of the waste masks that are produced are generally in quarantine centers. So whenever someone gets a positive test report, the state can just directly send them a bit of segregation guidelines, where do you need to dispose the mask and such, and then they can later collect them once their home quarantine session is over.
Thank you.
Okay, so I am quickly going to dig in a little bit. Please don't think I am, trying to get behind your back. But first thing I want to know is, I went through your essay a little bit, and you've written what we can do on a macro and a micro level. But how deeply did you study about what is actually happening with the biomedical waste? Do you know the process of how a biomedical waste gets out of a hospital, let's say a good hospital, which is like managing its waste well, do you know the process of how it gets from the hospital to where it needs to be, and what is the actual end of that waste? How is it treated?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't go quite deep in in the process of how it's conducted, because like I just read it superficially and I realized that all the technology or all the innovations that we need is already there. So I did not feel the need to solve the problem that's not there. But I did like go through superficially, like a hospital initially, it separates its biomedical waste into some color-coded bins, and then those that can be recycled are recycled. Those that need to be treated are treated with usually sodium hypochlorite solution, 5% sodium hypochlorite solution, if you want the technical terms, and sometimes incinerated, sometimes they can be recycled, or those that need to be directly incinerated are directly incinerated, those that need to be sent to the treatment facility are sent there, right? And did you ask any other question?
No, I'll just brief you a little bit about it. So biomedical waste are, number one, 90% of the time not recycled.
Yes,
like a different truck, either they are incinerated on site, which you're very correct about, or they are taken out of the site at a very particular timing when there's, you know, no other facility, and a very particular truck is assigned for that. So there's, as you said, the process is there. The problem that we are dealing with is the people, that people are not educated well enough. So what are your ideas or solutions or thoughts on how we can change that? Like how we can change the first part of biomedical waste, because how it's being treated is sought after, it's thought of, and it's going well. But what is the first part of identifying, educating people that this is a biomedical waste and why it needs to be treated differently? What are your solutions on that?
well, as I already stated, how much ever you tell the people to like use the dustbin, do this, do that, there's always going to be a significant portion that just throws it away like it's nothing. But as for like I did mention in my essay that spreading awareness, at least superficially, like the minimum, the bare minimum, and like even now, like in a lot of like some urban centers, at least in India, they have like special bins for specifically for masks and COVID related waste, like those PPE kits and all that stuff. So like at the micro level, that's the most you can do. Just spread a bit of awareness, and then like put designated bins for biomedical waste. There's nothing more you can do at the micro level. And after that, you all you can do is just commission macro level, like those authorities and cleanup bodies to clean up the mess that the people have caused, like clean up the mask and ensure that it's properly segregated and treated the way it should be treated.
Lisa, would you like to go next?
Thank you. Nishant, this sounds like a wonderful project that you've got. You mentioned that accurate data is important for your project. Is that correct? All right.
Yes,
so I wanted to
data
ask
is the most important.
That's what I thought you said. So in terms of SDGs, and as you're probably well aware, SDGs reporting has been quite spotty. We don't really have a proper reporting mechanism for the SDGs in terms of progress and things like that. Different nations report differently, or report more thoroughly, I should say. What do you think, is that going to impact you in some way? Are those SDGs reports and the figures coming back from what's happening with these SDGs, is that something that affects your project? And what would you do to overcome that, if so?
My essay, it was primarily targeted at like ensuring that the biomedical waste does not become the new crisis or such. Like it's properly treated. I don't quite see how it has much to do with the SDGs. Like, of course, it helps in sustainable living and such conditions, but those SDG reports submitted by the nations or such, I did not quite understand. But of course, they will also include how did they treat those biomedical waste correctly, or like if did that end up polluting the environment. It will, but I don't see how it's quite related to my project.
Okay, so you don't see a connection to the SDGs?
I mean, of course, it helps in keeping the environment clean and such, but not that. I mean, of course, it helps, of course, achieving the SDGs.
All right, thank you.
So I think we're going over time, but I have one more question for you. So I'm currently live in rural South Africa, right? And I'm sure this is the case in rural India as well, although I don't want to be presumptive. There are masks all over the place, all over the communities, in garbage dumps, everywhere, on the streets, and all of this. So it's without trying to, as Nilfa was saying, without trying to poke and prod too much, because I feel like I'm harassing you now. One of the things that can happen is because in many disenfranchised areas, people who don't adhere to guidelines and policies happen to be, and this is not exclusively the case, people who don't have agency, or they're poor, or they're disenfranchised. So they can't be bothered about, finding a bin to put a mask in, right? So how would you incentivize someone like that? I'm curious. How would you incentivize someone like that to take their mask and put it in a garbage? Or how do you create? I mean, let me make it a little. Give you a hint. How do you incentivize someone in terms of job opportunities to clean their environment, to bring people together? Can you think of one possible simple solution to that?
Education.
Yes, that's one.
Well, yes, if you would just want me.
But how do you educate someone who is very, very poor, who doesn't have a job, who's looking for a job? How do you get them to participate in this?
Well, of course, you'll have to go on ground and tell them what you're offering them. Well, education is just a simple one-line answer. That it's the long-term answer. The more you educate someone, the more they see how important it is to save the climate, to save the earth. And as for the situation you pointed out about the mask littering, as I said, the most immediate solution that you can do is like just assign cleanup bodies to get it, like clean the mess and then segregate it properly. And the long-term solution would be to just like do the bare minimum, just like put up some posters or just put some bins there that are dedicated for the biomedical waste. Of course, this would be like prioritized in urban centers first, and then would roll out to rural areas later, because the population density is more in the urban areas. So, and then like arranging the bins such as like it does not take a person more than 20 seconds out of the day to ensure that their mask does not end up as litter. Of course, that situation cannot be achieved 100%. That's not practical, but at least keeping it as an ideal goal, like to make a dedicated biomedical waste bin easily accessible for a person in rural area. That's like the ideal goal. And yes, the immediate solution would just be for cleanup bodies to collect it and segregate it properly. The long-term solution to put bins and spread the minimal bare awareness, and the best and the most long-term solution, I would so to say, would be education.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. You're very close. And with regard, I want you to think about this. With cleanup bodies, it will be really useful to hire local people to clean up their own areas, to incentivize governments to support local labor in order that the educational component and the cleanup component are tied, that they're married, right? That there's a marriage there. So that's something, you can think of.
So I don't have a question, but I just want to plant a quick food for thought, because I think you're really interested in this and you've invested your time also. So to think, I understand that your first point is educating people. It's the first point to everything. But if you think of something else which is connected to this, if you think of how people started in tier 1 cities, started segregating sanitary pads. Now, everyone knew sanitary pads in the normal bin is not good. But now, how did that change in a lot of places? Because there were incinerators in the washrooms. There were a separate sort of a bin which was tight sealed, which had no foul smell, specifically for sanitary pads. And the Indian mentality is, okay, there's something new here. What is this? Let's see. And because you're so curious about what is this new incinerator thing, whenever you're using a sanitary pad, your automatically instinct would be, now I need to put this in this incinerator and not in the usual dustbin. And then it becomes a habit. So is that was someone thought about it. So is this something that can happen with biomedical waste? Someone thought about the plastic reverse vending machines, that you put your bottle and you get a coupon from there. So people started putting their plastic water bottles into the reverse vending machine and not the dustbin. So that's how people started getting ideas. So is there something other than just awareness that you can think of? Like, this is something I just want you to think later when you have time, but something that you should be thinking about later.
Actually, the plastic vending machines, like you put your plastic waste there and get a free coupon, I have heard about it. It's primarily implied or used in Europe and USA. It's not like practical for more dense areas like India, because the population is so much.
So do a little bit more digging. In Delhi, you're from Bangalore, I understand, but in Delhi, major public places like Connaught Place and all of these places have these reverse vending machines that are doing really well. Even malls have these machines, and you get a coupon of a restaurant that is really nearby, like in 500 meters distance. So it's doing well in cities here.
I didn't know about that. The more you know.
So that's a good tip for you. Do this research today evening. You'll be surprised to know how it's doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Nishant. If the interview is over, you may leave the room.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the floor is yours.
Please don't score 1 second. There's been a bit of a blunder. I managed to share the sheet with Nishant. So he has access to the sheet right now. So I'll share a new sheet with you. I was sharing it with Lisa privately, and by mistake I shared it with him. 1 second. So I'll just quickly create another one and remove this one.
I'm maintaining my own sheet privately on my local disk, so I can share that later, and someone can.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Are you able to see my scoring?
I'm just going to have a look. 1 second. I'm able to see Lisa's.
I'm using the sheet, but.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm able to see your scores. So I'm
Okay,
going to see that, and I'm going to keep that from here as well. Okay, so good. Meanwhile, Neha, who shared the sheet, has revoked the rights to the sheet also. Neha, are you around? So, I mean, you can also, the three of you, talk about, how you want to do the interviews, and maybe do it in a shorter time. Meanwhile, I'll get Neha to share the new link. Lisa, Rosemary, Nilfa, you could please talk to each other.
Yes. I think Nilfa and I have been like poking away at them. I feel a little bad. But I do want them to start thinking outside the box, and to understand that you can have all these fantastic administrative and international level guidelines, and the reason, and I'm speaking very freely here, I hope not the youngsters are in, you can have all these policies, but with all due respect to everybody, with all due respect to everybody, most of these international policies are with the exception of some, which are fantastic, they're not working at a local level. And there have to be solutions that think of that incorporate the lives of local people, of people in communities, and community-driven solutions that are sustainable and that pay people for work is important, because when someone's entirely disenfranchised, you can't expect them to be thinking of elephants or plastic or biomedical waste.
Anyways, one solution can never be a global solution. It has to be very nation-centric with what notions and what things they've heard growing up. There's a lot that matters when it comes to a solution to anything.
I agree with both of you ladies. It's one of the things that hopefully we'll all partner on moving forward. We've got our Global Citizens SDGs Challenge every year on Earth Day to July 31st. And it's very much bottom up, local community solutions from the bottom up, because it's the only way that things actually work. And so it's a global challenge. It's until 2030. It's every year. And I will love to work with all of you and with our partner Orion Square as well. We'll give you more details about that, but that's exactly what you're saying, Rosemary and Nipla. It's really about the community level.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. Agreed.
I was wanting to ask him which SDG is he focusing on, because I mean, this had a direct link with so many SDGs, but I felt it would be too much pressure on him all of a sudden. I'm also marking on my personal paper because I'm a very pen and paper kind of a person. So I can also do the marking later in the end.
Yes, ma'am. The new link is ready. We are just sending it. You can put in the marking there. So that's
sure.
And I think the only thing that has changed is that you cleared out all the markings, right? And the new link remains the same, because I'm continuing to work on the sheet that I downloaded on my local disk.
That's fine. It's just that we've changed the sheet. Lisa, whatever marking she had, that's going to be there in this new sheet. So whoever had marked it is going to be there. We just created a new link. So that we managed to pass on the link to participant. Technology.
Yeah.
The score should not be a surprise for him. He didn't do very well on the SDG front.
Now I've lost my access. The new link doesn't work for me now.
How have they sent the new link to you? Privately or what? Have they sent the link privately to you? I don't see the link. How did they send the link to you?
I'm using the link that's in this chat. And it's
no, that's an old link. No, that's the old link.
You just sent it. It just came in at 4. You just recently sent it.
I shared the link at 3:23 with you.
No, I have a link from you at just about 7 to 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's the old link.
The other link worked fine, but the link you just sent doesn't. So let me go back to
the link that I sent to you about 8 to 10 minutes back is the old link.
Okay, it's telling me that I need to request access now. I don't have access now anymore. Neither of the links work.
Yes, that's how it should be.
They shouldn't work?
They should not work. She's supposed to give a new link that should work.
And where is the new link?
I'm also waiting.
we are sending it across because we just need to change the link and make sure that the access and everything is revoked. We are just sending it across.
All right, thank you.
Can we just don't know the name of the next participant? I'll just quickly go through their essay a little bit.
Sure. The next one is Ananya Prasad.
Okay.
Could you please check if this
Yeah.
link is working for you now, the new one? And I've been told that there are 4 separate sheets in these, so maybe they are named according to your.
Yeah.
If they are in perfect order, then I'll call the next part.
They look good to me. Lisa's scores are not there. I'll put Lisa's scores on that one.
My scores are all missing, but I can.
I have your scores. I have your scores captured, Lisa. I'm adding them there.
I can input them again as well.
Yeah, is that it? You can see them now.
Are all the judges?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the sheet is perfect for all 3 of you, I hope.
Yeah.
All right. So I can call the next participant then?
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, Ananya. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
All good. So tell us a little bit about your topic and a little bit about yourself so that we can start the discussion.
My name is Ananya Prasad. I'm 15 years old. I study in 9th grade at Delhi Public School, Faridabad.
And a little bit about your topic, what you decided to work on.
I chose the topic that was on water crisis, on how water crisis can be solved and what's the best way to manage it. I feel that water crisis is a very prominent thing in our world that's happening everywhere, whether it be urban areas or rural areas, developed countries or underdeveloped countries. And we just do not focus enough on it. Our focus is always that one day will come where water will run out, and we forget that water is already running out. So that's why I decided to focus on water crisis.
Okay, so digging a little bit deep, we are talking about sustainable development goals here. So whether are you talking about clean water and sanitization here, or are you talking about like life underwater, or you're talking overall the whole water issue? What are we focusing on here?
My essay particularly focuses on clean water and sanitization, that everyone should have access to clean water at regular intervals.
So what are your thoughts on that? Like, what is the situation right now? How can the situation be improved?
Currently, the situation is very bad. There are not only many major cities and countries facing the issue of lack of water, but also several companies are also making the situation worse, as there was a very a very popular case back then, some times ago, about Nestle extracting water from California's when the Californians were facing a historic drought, and Nestle extracted nearly 36 million gallons of water from California, which was currently facing their very worst drought ever. So this is a very bad crisis, and what I feel that can be done is firstly raising awareness in people about how bad it is and how much water we have left in every cities, and whether they're facing water crisis or not, and in general about how bad the situation everywhere is, but not just at the place where people live. And the second and the most important thing that I think we need to do is learn from our own indigenous our cultures and from the places which are already facing water crisis. In our own cultures, there are several ways to how to conserve water. Like in India and several places, we have found the old people in ancient India, there were baulis to conserve the rainwater, which have gone out of use now. So I feel like best way to do is in India, we can bring back baulis, and in everywhere, like in Africa, their own culture and African people's culture, and now American, the indigenous methods of water management and conservation can be brought back, which will not only be very easy to do, since those cultures were made in, those methods were made in according to their own place. So it will be very easy to do, and it will be promoting our culture as well, which is very important, because no matter how developed we are, we always need to remember our roots. Thank you.
Okay, so Nilfa, I'll jump in if that's okay with you. So you spoke about indigenous cultures, and I completely agree with you. The getting local and indigenous cultures involved is critically important. Since you're focusing on the water crisis from a sanitization and cleanliness perspective, I'm going to give you a use case and then ask you to think about a solution. So here in South Africa, where I'm currently living, the Olifants River, there's an incredible river called the Olifants River, and it translates, it's an Afrikaans word, and it translates to the river of the elephants. So with climate change and with changes in geopolitical strategies and government corruption, all of these factors have influenced the health of this river. The river flows through large parts of South Africa and then Mozambique. And then guess where it ends up? It ends up in the Indian Ocean. So it affects the populations and the peoples of India. Many local people who live close to this river have no access to water. So they go down to the river to clean, to bathe, and to support their lifestyles. What happens as a consequence of this is diapers end up in this river. So the river, by the time it gets to Mozambique, is dense with diapers. So while we say that we need to emulate indigenous ways of life, if the indigenous themselves are being impacted by corruption, by a lack of resources, by pollution, how do we get local people, indigenous people, with collaborating with governments, collaborating with youth like you, to, let's say an example, it's stop throwing your diaper in the water.
So for the example that you gave about them throwing diapers in the river, if the government makes a good waste disposal system there, this problem would not arise. Let's take us for example, if there is a garbage bin in our home, we'll simply throw the waste there. Why would we go across a distance to throw our waste? So the best way to make the local indigenous people collaborate with us and the government is to give them facilities. The only time when they will be hostile to us is if we do not provide them resources, or if we deprive them of the resources. So if we provide them the resources that we all have and keep them at equal status at us, then they'll happily collaborate with us.
So I like your answer a lot. Can you give me a specific way other than providing facilities? Let's say, like, I know I'm pushing you, so don't take this the wrong way. I just want you to think, because I do love your answers. let's say like in South Africa, and I'm going to say this unabashedly, for the large part, the government is deeply corrupt, right? They don't care about providing any facilities to most people. That's not, true without exception. There are exceptions to that. But most of the time, unless there is an exchange of finances involved, the government is not interested. So in a situation like that, how would you get local people interested and involved?
In this case, where the government is not really doing a lot of things, then other people, the citizens themselves will have to rise up to the occasion, and they'll have to make sure that indigenous people get the same resources as them in their own. They have to put their own 1 cent on this. Like we all can just help and encourage them. For example, we can set up schools nearby where the indigenous population is centered, so that they can have easier access to education, and the same with hospitals as well. We can do this. So we citizens also can do some things to make the indigenous people more equal to us. For example, the employment opportunities that are owned by the people themselves, self-employed people, they can offer jobs to indigenous people, and we can train them. We can help them learn skills which will help make them have more access to our resources. We can help them on, for example, if someone knows how to sew, or if someone is very good in sewing, then they can teach for 4 or 5 other people how to sew. And so if such centers are established near where indigenous people can access to these, it will be very helpful to them.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ananya, you've done a wonderful job. I don't have any questions for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So even I don't really have many questions, and I'm very impressed with your essay also. I just had a quick look, and you have given so much data into it. I really like the fact that you've digged deep and gone into facts. Just a quick thing, is this something that is very personally, you have a connection with this water issue at a very personal level, and is there something that you do on a very personal level and would like to encourage others to do?
I feel that while I have not had an actual experience with any severe water crisis or any other crisis, really, I'm privileged to say that I've led a good life. But I feel that this is an issue that's personal to me, because it's my life. Everyone's life depends on it. When I will be growing up, if this issue is not solved right now, I will be forced to live in a world where I will not have enough resources that we can access, and will not be able to live the life that previous generations have lived. So I guess in this way, it's personal to all of us, whether it be the adults whose children will suffer, or to us, because we ourselves will suffer. So I guess
what's a small quick solution that you would like to give to your peers, or to the community around you? Let's do this very small thing. This doesn't take a lot of effort, but I think this can bring a change.
A very small thing that we can do is we can conduct small rallies, and we can sign petitions. And a very important thing is also local government is often overlooked. While we cannot all participate in state government or center government, most of the adults can participate in their local governments. So I feel like I would love to encourage everyone to participate in their own local governments, which is a very good place to make change, to start small, but also to do some actual change.
Ananya, I would really like to compliment you. This was not like a question that people would answer in a few seconds, but the way you're answering with so much confidence and your clarity of thought, I'm really impressed with at such a young age, you're answering with so much confidence.
Thank you, ma'am.
I want to join in seconding that, particularly when you spoke about engaging local people in employment avenues and getting involved in local government. Definitely run for local office. And when you do run for local office, try to cling to those ideals that brought you there, because it's easy for larger forces to set in and for corruption to set in. And you can tread a really moderate, wonderful center path that stays true to the cause. So thank you for your good answers and wonderful presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
So can we call in the next participant then, ma'am? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ananya. You are free to leave this room. I shall go and call the next participant.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Acha, go ahead now.
Can you tell us who that is?
Sorry.
Okay.
Neha, is Navya Chen not there? She's the one who is to be the next participant.
Next one in 12 minutes, please.
Oh, yeah.
We have
Listen
about
in.
25 minutes, for Lisa to be here. So
Okay. Well, if Gauri is here, we can continue with that. That is not an issue.
Hi, Gauri. Begin with introducing yourself and your topic, and then we'll move on to any other discussion.
Yes, ma'am, surely. Am I audible? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Great, ma'am. So, hello everyone. I am Gauri Vadera from Bal Bhavan Public School, Delhi. I am currently an 11th grader who has chosen humanities. So, I would like to use 3 words to describe me. I'm creative, I'm tech savvy, and I'm the kind of person who takes initiative for everything. And I love to explore new things. And I have done many internships this year, which I never thought would do due to this value of mine. And I do look forward to the interview we are having. Coming to the topic that I have chosen, so I went with option number 3, which was related to waste management, PPE kits, and how to dispose of the single-use plastic that we have. So I basically wrote about the solutions and the creative things that I had in my mind.
I'm sorry, Gauri, we haven't had much time to go through your essay. So if you could just quickly tell us what solutions that you just said were written in the essay, just in short, so that we can have a better idea.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, ma'am, I have basically tried to convey that if we are aware about our problem, we need to accept it. And after we are able to accept it, we are mindful of it, we can certainly solve it. And this way, I have presented some creative solutions, such as it is said that burning of plastic creates pollution. So, instead of burning it fully, we can somewhere melt it to create plastic pencils, and this way it can be used to create treasure out of trash. So this way we can occupy we can use the plastic in the best way. And also when we talk about PPE kits, currently there's no proper way of disposal. It's like it's shredded and then it can go to the trash we are having. But I think that PPE kits can be transformed a little bit in this way, such that there is no need to dispose them at all, and they can be reused by the doctors. This way there will be less waste generation and less usage of plastic also.
All right, I've got a question. Sweetheart, can you tell me, you're mentioning melting the plastic. Will that have an adverse environmental impact?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I couldn't properly hear you.
Sure, you mentioned melting the plastic, and I'm wondering, will that create an environmental impact that might be adverse?
No, ma'am, it won't badly impact the environment at all, because melting it doesn't create fumes or doesn't let the pollutants into the airs, and this way we can create a better impact because we are creating different items which can be attractive and be bought, and this way we are somewhere enhancing the economy also. because there will be more opportunities for jobs and employment of people.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, ma'am.
I don't have any questions yet. So ma'am, if you want to go first, please.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you what's called a use case, which means just an example. You can imagine that I'm a person who eats, I'm mostly vegetarian, but okay. Let's just say for the purpose of this interview, I'm a person who eats fish, right? And ocean life. And we all know that these microplastics end up in the ocean, particularly single use, and then they're consumed by seabirds and fish and crustaceans and other animals. And so what kind of language, and I'm really not, willing to give up my fish eating. What kind of language would you use to convince me first to join a movement that raises awareness about single-use plastic, and talk to me about how it affects these animals in the ocean, the life in the ocean, and why ultimately the use of single-use plastic, which is not addressed appropriately, makes its way up to the food chain and onto our plates.
Thank you for your question, ma'am. So first, I would like to create a creative, give this a creative side too. So as you are eating fish for this instance, I would like to give you a fish with a polythene in its mouth. And I would like to ask you, what can you understand after seeing this picture? And you can convey your thoughts and everything as an individual. And then I'll tell you my perspective and what was my motive of showing you that fish with the polythene. So first of all, I would like to I would share that it's not very healthy for you to eat a fish who has in turn eaten some plastics or some waste. And then I would like to trace the way how we can stop this plastic going into the in the ocean and affecting the aquatic life. So I mean, we can start with a creative activity because we know that fish is your interest, but we have no idea if plastic is your interest or not. So if we are somewhere able to relate it with your interest, so you will be somewhere motivated to work in this plastic movement also.
Thank you for that. That's really a graphic and good example. Certainly, if you give me a fish with a plastic in its mouth, I'm going to start thinking of plastic. So that's very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so first, I want to compliment on your virtual background. I'm really impressed you created a custom virtual background with your name and sustainable development goals written. So have you seen any initiatives of reducing single-use plastics, or have you been a part of any such initiative? And what are your thoughts on the stuff that is going on right now, the solutions that are going on?
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you for the compliment. And if we have time, I'll show you some more of my backgrounds, which show that I'm really a mischievous person. And now coming to the question. So with the essay, I shared a file also that is a presentation. So it was an initiative I was a part of. So it was for all the school students. They had to prepare presentations, videos, and stuff as such, and give their solutions so as to what challenges they think are there in eradicating the use of SUPs. So I realized that these type of initiatives somewhere encourage the students and the youth to learn more. And there is one thing, like we say that plastic is really harmful, it will harm the society. So there are some good benefits of plastics also. In some cases, not exactly SUP, but the ones that organization was telling about in their webinars. I'm sorry, I didn't hear them, but I can tell that there are some benefits. There is a positive side to everything. So like I was telling you about the transformation of plastics from trash to treasure. So this is yet another way plastic can be utilized in a better way. And coming to the initiatives that are already in place, so people are trying their best to tell everyone that plastic is bad and so on. But in the end, it depends on the person who's hearing it. Like if you tell me plastic is bad, how much I believe it, and after believing it, am I taking an action? Am I not using plastic bags and letting the money out of my pocket to buy jute bags and
That's really nice. I like that you're personally also engaged in such activities. This again, I don't have any question, but there's something I would like for you to research more upon. Is you're from Delhi, right? I think you mentioned Delhi. Yes. So research more about these vending machines that are there to reduce single-use plastic and how they use the reward system, because this is what they teach you in management school. Always give reward to people for doing something good. So how they're using that reward psychology to reduce single use. I think you, in your initiatives also, if you do something like that, you will do really good with these programs that you're doing. It's wonderful.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So I have one last question. And this underlines the question that Lisa asked about the fallout or consequences of melting plastic. You must, I'm asking you not as a trick question, but simply because I don't know. Is the plastic melted using heat or chemicals? And what happens to the waste product of that process? And then have you looked into things like outgassing? I realize that outgassing is probably a very small ratio of, let's call it pollutants, when you consider the whole bag of pollutants that single-use plastic brings to societies and the planet. So if you can just address those issues briefly, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you. Basically, so we use heat to melt the plastic. I haven't actually researched research the whole process because I'm not a science student, but when I did research about it a little bit, it showed that the fumes that are emitted aren't actually harming the environment in the way burning does. So it's very much less impact when it comes to burning. So if we balance this impact, this negative impact with the positive impact that is made, so that somewhere equalizes and doesn't harm the environment.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Thank you for that. I would encourage you to look into the ways which the plastic is actually melted. So for example, if chemicals are used, where are those chemicals going? But your answer was very good. Thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gauri. So can we call in the next participant, the last participant?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Gauri. You may leave the room.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Neha, could you call in Navya, last participant?
So every time we're putting comments to everyone, the candidate is also able to see, by the way. Because they are also part of the everyone room.
Hello, Navya. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Navya. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your topic.
So, good afternoon once again. I am Navya Jain. I study in grade 10. My hobbies include dance, art, and exploring anything that I come across new. So I have developed quite a lot of interest in SDGs since I came to know about them recently. So I feel that SDGs are a great initiative by the UN, and I feel quite passionate towards them, and I feel like doing something to, make them successful by 2030.
So what SDG are we focusing on? You have focused on this time.
So, okay, as for the topic, I was focusing on sanitation, clean water and sanitation. And as far as the biomedical waste generation is concerned, so I was focusing on healthcare facilities, which is probably SDG 3. So I focused on the problem that biomedical waste is creating. So biomedical waste in this pandemic period specifically has generated a new problem, since it has increased by a huge amount. Because in the pandemic, the mask and the PPE kits were used by almost everyone, and in the second wave, it was being extensively used. So this has led to an increased generation of this type of waste, and this is a problem since all these wastes are plastics, and secondly they are infectious also. So it is very important to address this issue and to solve this issue so that infections can reduce and waste generation as always needs to be reduced.
I will get to my questions later. I'm still figuring out a few questions.
Okay, I'll give it a stab. Welcome, Navya. So I'll ask you the same question I asked one of the previous contestants. So I'm currently based in South Africa, and masks, the disposability of masks is a real problem here. Every time you enter a community, there's masks everywhere. There's masks in the water, in the rivers, and so on. So to give you a little bit of backdrop, many of the local people here don't have access to garbage bins or even to garbage collection facilities. None of that happens. And one of the reasons is the ineffectiveness, let's put it that way, of governments. So these people don't, it's not a priority for them, right? Let's put it that way, to dispose of masks. What kind of creative solution can you come up with to both engage local people in the activity of proper and appropriate disposing of masks? And how do you incentivize or encourage people to do this?
So first of all, creating awareness among the people is the priority, as whenever we come across an issue, awareness is the priority that we think of. So if people are aware of the consequences of what they are doing, then of course they're not going to do it. So to create awareness, I can probably go for rallies where this problem is more prevalent, where this problem is more visible, as you mentioned, people dispose of masks here and there. So wherever this problem is more prevalent, probably I'll campaign that this is not to be done. And since we cannot blame the government for everything, we also need to do something ourselves. So probably I'll arrange for dustbins to be placed in those areas, and I'll spread as much awareness as I can to let the people know that what they are doing is actually quite harmful. So since everybody is aware about Corona and the pandemic has struck almost all the sections of the society, so this can be used as a very important as one of the major factors which will influence the people that easily, because Corona has impacted almost everyone. So they'll understand the consequences better since they already have gone through it. So awareness is my first step that I would create to tackle the issue at hand.
All right, can I ask a question?
I'll ask you more questions later, but handing it over to Lisa.
Thank you, Rosemary. Navya, you mentioned that this is your priority, which is awareness, and that you'll be placing bins around, for instance. How will that, what's the practical nature of how that's going to come about? Is that going to be you working with the private sector, or are you working on trying to forge policy to actually create the advent of these, the bins being placed in different places around, or how are you going to go about that?
So it is probably going to be the private sector, since NGOs take initiatives of that sort, and probably I'll go for an NGO. I'll collect since many people like in this competition as well, we see many enthusiasts who are willing to work for the betterment of the society in terms of the SDGs. So I'll gather as many people as I can who are interested in this issue, and with the help of social media, which is quite useful these days in such issues. So I'll gather people and I'll create an NGO. So it is going to be a private initiative, since I do not expect much from the government, who is already doing many things for the public.
All right, thank you.
So I like that you're talking about, spreading awareness and all of it. I also personally do a lot of awareness sessions, but on the face of it, like, it's easy to say, you want to talk to, suppose, 100 people, 200 people, but people don't show up to your rallies. People don't care about what you're talking about, clean water. I know we need clean water, so why would I show up to your rally? So I want to know what would you do? Like, what is a unique solution that you would provide, and who would your target audience be? You cannot say I want to educate anyone and everyone. You have to have a target audience, and you have to have a very clear idea of what you're going to talk about in this rally, or what you're going to do, and what are your plans, and how will you encourage these people? Because it's not easy. You can say that I am very motivated and I focus on this, but it's not easy to encourage other people. So what are your ideas and solutions towards that? Did I just put you on the spot?
I quite agree with what you're saying, and that is actually something that troubles me a lot many times. That okay, I am motivated, so how do I motivate the others? So probably consequences will help me if that is going to work.
I'll give you a quick hint. So you're motivated for a reason, and that's why you're doing something about it. So whenever you're sharing what you're doing about it, it's what motivates other people. So tell us what motivates you and what you're doing about it. There's a hint in the comment box also. I know it's a tough question, Navya. It's okay. I feel you're stressing out on this. Just tell me what motivated you to choose this particular, why you chose, clean water and sanitization. What felt like it's something you should be catering to?
That is quite dependent on the current scenario, because corona pandemic is quite prevalent these days, and probably we're going into the third wave, where there are new variants emerging after some period, after several intervals, and there are many variants that are emerging out. So in order to get out of this cycle, in order to stop this thing which is troubling the whole mankind, I want to address this issue and I want to make a change. So that is what is motivating me to go for a plan of action and do something. As far as the others are concerned, I can only just share my opinion, and it is up to them. So I can try my level best to change someone else's opinion, but of course we are in a democracy. I cannot impose my views on someone else. So if I am not able to influence their mindset, I can go for the solution to that. So if I cannot stop people from throwing away masks, then I will need to initiate to take care of the surroundings and go for a cleaning drive.
That's really nice that you are, yourself getting involved in all of this. That too at such a young age. That's really nice to know.
So Navya, I have a few comments and then a question. I just want you to think about this. This is not in any way to put you on the spot again. So a lot of the biomedical waste comes from pharmaceutical companies, right? Really large pharmaceutical companies that produce, syringes, needles, masks.
Yes.
And I really like the idea that the concept that you brought in of a democracy, and that's important. It means everyone's engaged, including the accountability and responsibility component that also has to come with a democracy, right? So some of the things we could possibly do is, yes, you can have rallies and protests, and these are all excellent and wonderful ideas. But when someone's really disenfranchised and all they care about is feeding their child the next meal, like you correctly said, they're not going to be so engaged. So what we can possibly do is engage the resources that pharmaceuticals have, and in a very skillful way, without vilifying, point fingers to say, look, here's the number of masks that you're producing, or syringes, or vaccines, or if it's plastic waste, the bottles. Can you allocate resources to employ the people of these villages so that they collect these waste and dispose of them carefully, at the same time as you're raising awareness and educating and saying, these are things that are good for your health, right? So you can think of creative solutions like that. And when the accountability and finger pointing comes from very young and wonderful people like you, these companies do listen. They don't always listen, but they do listen. So this is one way in which you can engage accountability as well as responsibility in a democracy. So, and with that, I want to leave it, and thank you for your good answers.
Thank you, Navya.
Thank you, Navya. You may leave the room for a minute, and please, when you go to the main room, ask everyone else who's there to stay for a while, because we'll be joining this one as well.
Okay.
So, ma'am, sir, we'll be now leaving for the main room as well. And once we're there, I would ask all three of you to please give a small speech or something for the kids, your feedback, anything that you would like to say. Just please add a few words there as
well. It has done her scoring. Oh, someone's tried to close the breakout rooms. Okay. Lisa's scoring is already there. Nilfa's scoring is there. So Rosemary, you need to translate your manual on the Google Sheet.
I will. Yeah. Is the most recent link the active one?
Yes.
Okay, let me copy.
I'll pass it to you again. There's no person there, so yeah, hopefully we get to know.
Are we leaving the breakout room?
Yes, we are going to the main room.
Okay, all right.
It's okay, I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Could everyone please turn on their cameras? All the top 5 and all the VONG OC who are here.